Nine World Chronicles audience. Today, we're back with my advisor, as it is now, Tennis Tillman, and today we're going to talk more about the book of Memnon. So the last time we had talked, you and I, Tennis Tillman,
you had suggested that I pick this book up,
more about
and I went ahead and got it. I got this on
the last time
Amazon.
you and I
had some good
Tennis
shipping.
Tillman,
You had suggested that I
pick
like
this
2
book
days,
up,
so I was really
and
excited.
I went ahead and got it.
I
got this
on,
the last time
Amazon.
I was
had some good shipping.
I was pretty surprised by what was in it. I mean, when we first talked, you had kind of put me up on game about Memnon himself. So I was looking, obviously, to get a lot of information about him. But when I opened this up, there was a lot more information in here that I never even thought. Do you want to start by talking about the book, or what do you want to share about the book first?
Well, yes, the books that I actually picked up about it'll be 10 years now, and that was based on someone that also shared information with me about Memnon, but I had already been doing research on him. I just wasn't aware of the book series until about maybe 10 years ago. And so when I got the book series, the first thing I did was I contacted the writer of the book series because I was so fascinated about all that was going on with Memnon. So when I talked to him about it, I was just like you, looking at this information and just blown away by what was in it. And so after that, I picked up his other 2 series and the Princess Nefertari series. And so he's been my advisor on Memnon and many other things years after that. So it's just been something that I've been holding pretty much close and dear to my heart for years. It's a fascinating piece of material. And I think that everybody really should own that series. It's one of the most fascinating book series I believe are written since they've talked about Memnon, even in the Odyssey or any other writings about him.
Okay. Now, initially, the author starts off a little bit different. I was kind of surprised that he actually puts a glossary of terms in the front of the book.
Yes.
Why do you think he did that? Like, what was? And I'm just kind of showing this to the camera here so people can kind of see. But he starts off kind of defining some of the deities, some of the terms, the places. Why did he start with that, or did he give you any insight in that?
Well, I believe he started with the glossary is because, like a lot of people, sometimes people want to know what something is, and I believe he wanted to give an introduction about what was in it by giving a glossary term. And I strongly believe it was to give people insight on something they probably knew nothing about. Not nothing like I've never heard of it before, but nothing as if, well, I didn't even know this existed in there. That took over 15 years of research and information to put that glossary together, just so people could understand what was in there. So I believe he done that for that reason.
Okay. So as I'm getting into this, I obviously was expecting a lot of information about Memnon, but as you start to understand more about Memnon, it really changes how I saw Greek mythology. And I'm just cracking this book open. Is that the correct response, that I'm being introduced to something that's going to change what I think about that mythology?
Yeah, I was the same way because, again, to me, I've, been exposed to other type of Greek mythology or, superheroes and the like, where the DC or Marvel comics and stuff like that. But this book starts off very different than other books, even graphic novels that I've read. So it is very interesting in how he exposes this history. But honestly, before that, I've been, never exposed to anybody closely like Memnon. How he explains it from this perspective. So it was fascinating.
Yes.
Put it that way.
Yes. Well, it was interesting to me because Memnon seems to represent a lot of the archetype for heroes in the sense of he had this great physical prowess, but he was also ruled by a stronger moral code. Can you talk a little bit about that part?
Yeah, Memnon was, when we're talking about the morality of character when it comes to Memnon, he was raised, his mother put him, I'm going to put it an example of raised by these nymphs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these warrior women nymphs were very strong-coded, ethical people. So, and this goes along with some of the things that we know about the African culture of the Nile Valley. For an example, we know a lot about the principles of Ma'at.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So these principles of righteousness, and this goes along the backbone of Greek mythology. Of course, there's a lot of writings that clearly state that the Ethiopians were high spiritually and morally, where the gods would leave Mount Olympus and come and dine and eat with them.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So, yes, this is a fascinating piece of history, that's been not even talked about.
Right.
Okay.
Go ahead. Well, no, I was going to ask you. There was one point because you said that he was raised by nymphs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, a lot of mythology tells us something about nymphs, and it never really includes morality.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Because his strong moral code came from that. Because his mother was off doing the things that she was doing. I think I mentioned to you what part Tithonus played in the royal court and stuff like that. So Memnon had to be surrounded with people with high moral values.
Yeah.
And he grew up that way. So this is what made him the person that he was, and nobody ever thinks about that. But these nymphs that Memnon was raised around was clearly people of high principle, high moral, and ethics. So that would mean that these are the people basically of the Nile Valley. This is the people that, as I mentioned before, were high spiritually and morally.
Yes.
Okay. This is the raising of information and knowledge that he had. Okay. And this is including warrior skills.
Yes.
Okay. So he's put into this warrior skill type of raising, where that's why they called him the Warrior King, because of course he had to go through a lot of things that involved making hardcore decisions.
Mm-hmm.
This involves morality and ethics.
Yes.
And this is what separated him from a lot of people. A lot of people are just not familiar with the power of morality and ethics. When you are seen as a person like that, you're looked upon in a different way. Okay, you're not barbaric. You're not, a bully.
Right.
Okay, you're seen as a person of character, and that's what people really, that's what really sticks out, and that's what people wanted. They said this king, this Memnon, it's different than anybody we've ever encountered.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what made him different than everybody else, of course. And the writings is meshed with him and his ethics and his morality.
Yes.
That's one thing that he's truly known for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, he's also known, obviously, for being a hardcore warrior. Okay. Now, I read the story that he fights Ajax. Right?
Yes.
And this is to a standstill, right?
Yes.
Now, Ajax was so raw himself that he actually fought it, like he was killed by Athena, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Now, so he had to be a pretty heavyweight if challenging a god of Athena's status was within his realm.
Well, yeah, Ajax, you have to remember he was a towering Greek.
Yes.
He was known for his warrior courage. In other words, this guy was literally fearless in the eyes of the Greeks.
Okay.
Okay, what I'm saying about that situation is that he has done a lot of fighting,
mm-hmm.
to the point where he's looked upon as almost the equal to Achilles.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's saying a lot about who this person's skill was in his fighting prowess on the battlefield.
Yes.
Now, you got to understand, I've always have told people, if you are in, the mindset of understanding who these characters and people were and what they actually did, you'll have to know what their skills and their physical abilities were. And if you know what their physical abilities were, you go, wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
This is what made Memnon the person that he was. Okay. So, like I said before, Ajax wasn't, a person, of course, from what I understand, he was in the writing, as far as him being a complete brute.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to violence, that was, he was second nature to that situation.
Right. Right.
Okay. So, you got to understand, Ajax was a person to be feared.
Yes. He had a great reputation.
Yes, he did. And when Memnon fights a person like that, you got to know what type of skill Memnon has.
Yes. Yes.
There's no question about that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could be wrong. Okay, I could be wrong. You can correct me here. I know that he battles Achilles finally during the Trojan War, at the end of the Trojan War. Mm-hmm. And Achilles ends up killing him in that battle. Now it seemed like to me, if I'm correct, their skill set was very comparable, and the benefit that Achilles had was his skin being protected, right? He'd been dipped in the river Styx. Was that the defining attribute between the two, or was it a skill level that was slightly higher for Achilles?
Well, there's a writing, and a story about Memnon and Achilles' battle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is said that Memnon makes Achilles bleed.
Yes. Okay.
They say Memnon was the African that made Achilles bleed.
Yes.
Now, Achilles has killed many men,
mm-hmm.
and nobody has made him bleed.
Right.
So you got to understand what type of warrior skill this person must have to make you bleed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This is, yes, Achilles was called the Lion Killer, and there's a lot of reasons for that because of his physical strength, and again because of his, the skin nature. Now, if you was to, in my opinion, look at Achilles, he would be almost like, Superman on foot, if you will, without flying.
Okay.
Because of his abilities and of course him being dipped in the river Styx and of course being, coated that way, it's almost like he had iron skin, if you will.
Right.
Okay. Now Hephaestus has given him a whole panoply of armor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having armor on top of armor.
Right. You got the armored skin, and then you've got this magic or high quality armor made by a god.
It's indestructible.
Yes.
Okay, so, and this person still, in frontal combat with Memnon, could not defeat him.
Yes.
That is saying a lot.
Yeah, and you point out in frontal combat.
Yes.
So how does he ultimately inflict a wound that was fatal on Memnon?
Well, there's a lot of different stories about how Memnon died, but all of them is an unfair battle, if you will.
Okay.
Some stories says that he was hypnotized. Some stories say that he was ambushed by other archers from the Greek army.
Mm-hmm.
Others say that there was a spell cast upon him. There's all these different variants of stories on how Memnon died, but all of them is unfair.
Right.
All of them. It doesn't matter how he died. It was an unfair fight, period.
Right.
Okay, because according to the story of, like I said, Diodorus, and of course to Antiochus, Seleucus, who wrote that stories, and other writers, people who come to, together over time, has clearly said that both of the mothers of the warriors were there. The mother of Achilles
Mm-hmm.
and the mother of Memnon.
Yes.
Okay, now both of these things are captured on a vase. Okay, and this epic battle was supposed to be, a man-to-man fight to determine the political outcome of the battle. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so it was a political battle. So because the African warriors came all from the Nile Valley. Okay, we're talking about thousands.
Yes.
Tens of thousands.
Okay.
Okay. There were so many warriors, they said, according to that story, it made the ground shake.
That's a lot of warriors.
That's a lot of warriors, correct. So when they come and they battle with the Greeks, they beat the Greeks all the way back to their boats.
Okay.
Okay. And they knew they were going to be slaughtered by these Africans.
Right.
Okay, because we're talking about the greatest archers of the world, okay, on top of swordsmen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was clearly they knew that if we don't do something about this, none of us is going back because they're going to kill all of us.
Right. Right.
Okay, so the political outcome was, well, you bring out your greatest warrior, and we'll bring out our greatest warrior.
Right.
And let this be the political outcome of this fight, and we'll determine how this is going to end, and if Troy is going to fall and stuff like that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now that seems like the scene that they had in the movie with Achilles and Hector. It's very similar to that, right? Where you're sending out your best to take on their best.
Yeah, but it was that was.
But Hector wasn't in that league.
No, he was not.
Yes.
And I can tell you right now that he wouldn't have even been chosen for that. Okay, mm-hmm. Because he had. I'm not saying he wasn't a good fighter. Okay, he was, but he was not. And we're talking about Achilles now.
Yes.
Okay, so it would be almost like an untrained person that wants to get in the ring and fight somebody that is the most greatest fighter in the world, somebody like Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali. We're talking about somebody that's clearly trained.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And high skilled.
Yes.
Okay, Hector, I know you want to fight him, but you need to sit this one out.
Right. Right.
Okay, this one is not for you.
Right. But he couldn't sit that one, or he felt he could not sit that one out.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the movie Troy was inaccurate in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Okay. Good movie, but it was not accurate.
Right. And the biggest thing being Memnon being excluded from the movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, because clearly, if it was to be portrayed, that movie was actually even close to accurate. I mean, even if Memnon showed up for 2 minutes, okay, that would have made a big difference in the movie.
Right.
Okay, but there's no appearance of him at all.
Right.
And during that fight with Hector, and Hector's body being dragged around and stuff like that, okay, we're talking about the Iliad, and then we're talking about that hidden book of the third book, because the whole movie is based on 3 books, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the last book that nobody knows anything about is the Ethiopias.
The Ethiopias.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why you don't see any African warriors there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that part was clearly cut out. So it was only the Odyssey and the Iliad that portrayed in that movie, and some parts and pieces and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you have 3 books that clearly defines what Troy, the history of Troy would look like. So it talks about all of that. But if you're cutting out a complete book, well, then all you're going to have is what we look at and what we're seeing.
Right. So we kind of got a chiseled down version of what the real story was, and it's still a pretty epic film.
Not in my opinion, but
not in your opinion.
but There was some good fight scenes in there. Of course, the action was good.
Right.
Okay, but you have to remember now. Like I said, Memnon fights and kills Antilochus.
Yes.
Okay, now if anybody knows who Antilochus is, okay, that's Nestor's son.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was a brave warrior. Okay, this guy was fast. This guy was like, we're talking about one of the fastest runners in Greece.
Okay.
A chariot rider. Okay, he performed many deeds of valor. Okay, this guy was killed by Memnon. So what I'm saying is these was no small players.
Mm-hmm.
These were very big people in Greece.
Yes.
Antilochus was one of the finest warriors in all of Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And he fights Memnon and gets killed. Now, all I'm trying to talk about in this particular part is, with these type of warrior skills, you have to be at a level of superior. You have to be at a superior level of fighting, or a superior warrior, or a person that is seriously trained to be able to handle these are heavy players.
Right.
Okay. And just to say that says a lot.
Right.
Just like Ajax, just like, these are heavy people.
Yeah,
so
this is the best of the best.
That's pretty much what I'm saying, yes. So you got to know that, okay, in other words, Memnon is no small guy. In history, Memnon was not only he's the most handsome guy in all of Ethiopia.
Okay.
Okay, one of the finest people there, and then one of the tallest people in Ethiopia.
Okay.
So, you know who Manute Bol is, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, that would be the equivalency that we're talking about of the stature of Memnon and what he would be like.
Okay.
That's pretty tall.
Yeah, 7 foot. Yeah, 7'4". Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty tall. So that shows you what his stature would be like.
Yes.
Okay. And his masculine, he was all about masculinity virtues. Okay, so this is the history of people of the Nile Valley.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, and this is what culminates or circles around all of the warriors that follow him. You got tens or hundreds of thousands are coming from all different tribes all along the Nile to come to this great battle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Achilles and Memnon going toe to toe. Now, according to the story, Zeus makes Achilles and Memnon like giant men.
Yes.
And then they're fighting for days.
Fighting for days. Okay.
Not minutes or hours. We're talking days.
Okay.
That's incredible stamina and physique.
Yes.
And conditioning. Okay, these are godlike abilities.
Yes.
To fight for days.
And this was so good that the gods wanted to watch this. When this came on, this was like when we have a big fight, and all the gods sat around. They wanted to watch this fight.
Yes. It's it's like, dude, I cannot miss this. I can't go get nothing to eat.
Right.
I'm really, taking a bathroom break. I'll probably miss a, section.
Yeah.
This is one of the most epic battles in all of history.
Yes. Memnon and Achilles. Yes.
The sparks and sword clashing was immense.
Yes.
You could only, if you could just picture what that would look like.
Yeah.
It was, exactly. It's one of the most epic battles, pretty much of all of Greek history when it comes to something like that.
Yes. Well, and it should. I mean, because from what we get simply from those two books, the Iliad and the Odyssey, we spark off all these other, characters and definitions and creatures within Greek mythology. So is it kind of like so the whole story is really one of the central starting points for Greek mythology, or at least the telling of Greek mythology?
Yes. because all the greatest players are in it. We're talking about the people from Mount Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you are going to leave off Mount Olympus and go across the ocean to eat with the Ethiopians, that says a lot. You're leaving your homeland,
right?
And you're going to sit down and dine with these people because of their ethics and morality. Now, according to history, the Greeks had to give worship and homage and things like that to the gods.
Yes.
But they're not going to sit down and eat with them.
Right.
Okay. But when, you're leaving off your homeland, coming across and sitting down and connecting with some people like that, that shows you exactly, the power of, morality and ethics. Now, this is just the writings of all these other people. Now, remember Zeus and Poseidon and all these great Olympians came down. So they had this big, huge banquet. Okay. Mm-hmm. With some of the most powerful, Greek mythology warriors and gods there dining with these African people.
Yes.
So that says to me the portal of Greek mythology in a lot of ways.
Yes. Yes.
Its connections, it's the storytelling. I mean, like I said, it talks about what the relationship was. It talks about the connection in the rituals that go on. So there's many other things that goes along with that. So yes, of course.
So okay, when we talk now, you talked about the connections, and I this is really the first time I've heard of the connections really between the Greeks and the Ethiopians, right? Even though we know that the Greeks came and learned a lot from the Africans, we don't really hear a lot about that connection. Why was Memnon? So Memnon's an Ethiopian, and this is a battle going on in Troy. This is Troy business, right? This is they're fighting over a woman. It has nothing to do with Ethiopia. Why does Memnon show up here?
Well, Memnon. Okay, so Memnon is family.
Memnon's family.
Yes, because the king of Troy, Priam.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, has a brother. His brother name is Tithonus.
Tithonus, okay.
And Tithonus has two sons, and that would be Memnon and Memnon. So basically, these are his nephews.
So the king of Troy, these are Memnon is his nephew.
Yes.
Ethiopian.
Yes. So Priam, that's Memnon's uncle.
Okay. Uncle Priam.
Uncle Priam, that's correct.
Yes, okay. And
so when there's family issues, I mean, you probably, I know this in my own personal life. If something's wrong with one of my cousins, somebody, right?
Right.
You're going to go to defend the family.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. This is what Memnon did.
Yeah.
Okay. You get a whole bunch of these, people that have come across the Aegean,
mm-hmm.
and they're sitting up here outside and they're camping, ready to take us down.
Right. Yes.
Memnon said, well, we can't have any of that.
Right.
Okay. But remember now, Memnon is a warrior, so he doesn't just come and just, let's fight. He strategically plans out, makes his whole plan of what something's going to look like. So he says, okay, well, what do you got? And he describes, of course, he tells them what it is. And then, well, we got to get some warriors because we have to, we're going to have our people come and we're going to represent this. But we're going to do it the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have a whole bunch of warriors come.
Yes, bunch of warriors.
Okay, yeah, and this is what happened. But this is a family matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand, when you're talking about cousins and uncles, this is all part of the royal court.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at, Memnon's representation, being an Ethiopian. He really looked different than his family members in Troy. At least by the movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because, Memnon's mother is Eos.
Eos. And Eos is the representation of the dawn.
Correct.
Okay.
And so that, it says a lot about who Memnon is because of his mother. Now, you probably, and I'll go back to family members. Mm-hmm. Now, some of us, you may have brothers and sisters, but some of you are shorter,
right?
And you'll have some that are taller,
right?
You take your genes after your father, or whatever. So you're taller. Where the mother may have some, and it's okay. You're small. You're not as tall as your brother, But it all focuses on genes and where it comes from. This is kind of Memnon's situation,
right? Okay.
But Eos is a towering Ethiopian.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a person that she's literally in Greek mythology. She's a titan.
He's a titan. Memnon. Yeah, you're 7'4" plus something like that. The great warrior. That's a titan. Yes.
And so this is this is who Memnon takes his genes after.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Okay. So with that being said, Memnon, according to the history of him, it is said that he was considered to be superior to all of the Greek heroes except for Achilles.
Yeah. Okay. So he was number 2.
According to mythology, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Now we're talking even Hercules.
Yes. Even Hercules.
Even Hercules. Now remember,
that was a heavyweight. Now Hercules, that's a heavyweight there.
That's correct.
Yes.
And it says that he was considered to be a superior to all of them except for Achilles.
Except for Achilles. Wow, that's pretty high praise there.
That's pretty high praise. That's correct. So that tells you, what spot he had.
Yes. Yeah. He was ranked so high that even Zeus had affection for him.
That's correct.
And so after he dies, Zeus brings him back, right? He's an immortal now.
That's correct. The mother of Memnon goes to them on Mount Olympus and said, the way that Memnon died was unfair. It was unjust.
Right.
And you said you wasn't going to interfere, and you did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And, as Zeus says, yes, you're right. But, Troy fell. I got my way. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, I will revive Memnon.
Okay.
And he shall live again. So he brings Memnon back. He said, you could come with us and be amongst the other gods and be on Mount Olympus and drink ambrosia.
Yes. They love ambrosia up there.
That's correct.
Yes.
And he says, no, I don't want to be up here. I don't want to be here with you. Okay. Mm-hmm. He said, I want to go back to my homeland.
Okay.
And I will dwell there. So he wants to go back and be amongst his people.
Yes.
And that shows you the high ethics and character of Memnon.
Yeah, he passes up. Now it's funny because, since we're talking the Clash of the Titans movies, that's an offer that Zeus makes to, is it Perseus?
That's correct.
And Perseus does the same thing. He turns it down. Do you think that was a reference to Memnon's relationship with Zeus?
It could have been, but one thing I do know, that's a very, very, it's a very powerful place to be.
Yes.
And you can see what kind of character level that is for a person to turn something down that significant.
Right. To live amongst the gods.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I could see that being a parallel, yes.
Okay. Because not a lot of people would do that. I think I take that offer.
No. You want to live amongst this, you want to live in a palace with us? No, I'll go and live amongst the peasants.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going with the palace.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, I think I'm going with the palace. There's a bunch of goddesses and everything's cool and we have all the ambrosia that we need, right? I think I'm going to take... So Memnon clearly was light years ahead of me in that regard, and I'm not a bad guy.
Yeah.
So with the book, and as I'm getting into it, so tell me what you got. What was the most impactful thing that you think you got out of the book series?
The book series to me says a lot about what our kids are facing today.
Okay.
Just a lot of difficulty, changes, even culture, Memnon. Memnon's son in this story is Memnon.
Okay.
And Memnon is the son of Memnon, so he's going through all these different changes because, the invaders and stuff like that from the north, stuff like this. So he's going through a lot of different tribulations and trials, like a lot of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that really resonated with me because that's our situation. Because, of course, at the beginning, I can see how Memnon, Memnon, the son of Memnon, would have an attitude. He would be, cocky. He would be, because his father's a king.
Yeah.
Okay, so, when you are a king's kid, you're spoiled.
That's right.
And so he learned, and matured through these adventures and elders and people like that mentored him throughout the adventures. And that's just something that kids need today. They need strong mentors.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Because that's something that'll really change your lives. I felt like, I probably wouldn't have made some of the decisions that I made had I had a strong mentor.
Right. I agree with you there.
Okay, so that was one of the things I really liked, and of course the action pack was there, but there's a fighting system that we have we utilize. I even teach that system now. It's Pen Karashin. It's in the book.
Okay.
Pen Karashin is the all-encompassing fighting system that was utilized by the ancient Kushites.
Okay. And
so it's been adopted and changed, and so you probably know it today, modern-wise, as Pancration.
Pancration, okay.
If you look at Pancration, you'll see that it was used amongst the Greeks during the time of the Spartans and stuff like that. But that's the fighting system that's in that book series. And so I really love that because it talks a lot about training and how to hone your abilities, and it talks about how to, focus your energy. It means a lot of like martial arts, if you will.
Okay.
Okay, that's where if you're talking about that, that's kind of what that is. And so Memnon's son learns this system from these Kushites.
Okay.
And he becomes a better warrior than he was in the beginning.
Okay.
Because of this fighting system. That's another one. And so Eos is actually in the book series.
Okay.
So she's in the third book. So you have to get the third book.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah, there are 3 books in the series, guys. I'm just starting with book 1.
Yes.
But yeah, you can get all 3 of them right on. They even package them up for you, and I think it's only like $59 or something like that, and you get free shipping. So it's actually really, really, really good series. So from what I can already tell, like I said, I'm pretty honest with you guys. I just cracked this thing open the other day, so I've barely gotten any wrinkles in the cover of the book so far. But within like the first 20 pages, I had to stop and I had to call you because there was so much stuff in there that was huge that we never, you never hear these representations in other mythology. And when I called you, immediately I think, what was it I got caught? I got caught on, this references the Olmec civilization.
Yes.
And that's what really blew me away because, for people who have been following the channel, I did the video on the Olmecs. It might be even 2 years ago. And we still get a lot of static back about what I said in those representations, which was just the fact that these were African peoples who migrated to that civilization or to that area and established a civilization. It doesn't detract from the people who are there now, who are the descendants of those people, through other mechanisms. Yeah. How important is it? I mean, how much of that stuff do we see in this book?
A lot. And I say a lot, meaning it's meshed throughout the book series.
Okay.
It's really important to take a look at that because that tells you what things were like. And what I really enjoy about the book series, it's a multicultural book. In other words, it's not just one thing.
Okay.
Because there are many different people. Okay. All over the world. So we're talking from Africa, of course, we're talking about from the Nile all the way over to Asia. We're talking, all the way over to the North Americas. I mean, we're talking all over. So this adventurous talks about different civilizations and different cultures of people. So this is what he encounters.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So it's a multicultural book. So many people like that book series for that reason.
Okay.
Because they can understand, okay, I see how this starts out. You know, where is this going to end up? You know, are you just talking about there's just one people and that's all there is? Well, no. Because there's Greeks in there, you know.
Right.
There's all types of people. Yeah, so there's all types of people there, and I like it's a very multicultural. It's a very well-rounded book, if you will put it that way.
Right. Right.
And honestly, that's how life really was. See, that's how life really was, because you may go, you'll go to different places, you know. I'm talking, you know, you're gonna experience different people all over, but one thing you'll notice is you'll see a common trait.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see, oh yeah, I see the Aztecs, you know, pyramids over here from, all over the areas of Mexico. I see the Olmec heads over here.
Mm-hmm.
But right, all of these things are I want to put it, similarities.
Yes.
Similarities of ancient civilizations of people all over the world.
Right.
And that's kind of what this book is like.
Okay. Okay. Now, I was going to ask you this as well. Okay, so we know that, so the Greeks, we see some crossover between some of the deities, you know, or different representations, right? We can, we see, I'm trying to think of an example, Aphrodite, and we see who's Greek, and we see Inanna, who is Sumerian, right? And we see all these correlations. How much of this is really drawing on the same figures? I mean, we know that obviously the Jehudi, became Thoth or other multiple names, Hermes Trismegistus. How many other of the Kemetic netters are we actually seeing represented in Greek mythology right in front of our eyes, but not knowing it?
Well, I mean, a great example of that would be somebody like Montu.
Okay.
So Montu, according to when the Greeks came to, Kemet or Egypt, that he was split between, two different Greek mythology deities. For an example, he was split between Ares and Apollo.
Okay.
Okay. And so it's because, of course, the warlike skills of Ares, and then the master bow skills of Apollo.
Because that's how powerful he was.
Pretty much.
Yes. And no one talks about Montu, right? I mean, if we compared mythological fame right now, Ares and Apollo are killing this guy.
Well, this is, I've had to explain this more than one time to someone. It's because there's so many temples of Montu. Montu is meshed every single place in Egypt. I don't. You can go there today and see all of the drawings and carvings and temples. It's there right now.
Right.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, you can only imagine what it was like, when the Greeks visited there. Or let's put it even during 60 BCE when Diodorus Siculus was there.
Okay.
Now, he even says the highlight during even that time was glorious because of the carvings and the paintings and everything else, because of the temples and because of that. But Montu's temples was very much still erected in some places where it's clearly you can actually walk in there like a building.
Okay.
And see these temples of Montu. Now, what makes Montu so interesting is that the pharaohs themselves call themselves Montu.
The pharaohs call themselves that.
Absolutely. Because they went to battle with this greatness of the warrior Montu.
Okay.
And one of the carvings is clearly on the war chariot of what would be Thutmose the third. Now, Thutmose the third. His actual name is Menkaperah Tehutimus.
Say that again.
Menkaperah Tehutimus.
Okay.
So Menkaperah Tehutimus in the short version, and that was his actual name. We call him Thutmose the third, or that's the name that they have for him. So that literally means manifestations of Ra, one born of thought. That's what it means.
Okay.
This is actually on the war chariot, Mantu. Okay. So this war chariot is demonstrating how Mantu stretches his bow on this carving. Now,
okay.
Yeah, if you want me to send you a picture of it, I would love to do that.
Yeah, do that. I was trying to find one while we were talking about it to see if I could throw it up, but I haven't been able to find it.
It's significant because it talks about the importance of that deity, or what people would call that deity. So it's a very important thing to know exactly how powerful that is, because even Ramses says the same thing. Okay, Ramses says the same thing when he goes to battle. That's what he's also stressing.
Okay.
Okay, so why would that be so important to somebody?
Because it worked?
Well, because of war, but it talks about war. It talks about the conquering vitality. It talks about, this what a person's strength would be like in war.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of different things. It represents all of that because it's all encompassing. Okay, so the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because when I found this out, I was completely blown away by it.
Yes, it's pretty heavy.
Yes. And so this is why the Greeks considered Ares and Apollo to be, he was too powerful to the point where we got to split him up between two different ones. We just can't keep him for just one.
Right. Because individually, those are two very powerful gods in their own right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, you see, just for our conversation's sake, I believe I sent that to you so you can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So this is a very important thing to know. And the reason why I stress this is because in the writings of Greek mythology, I keep seeing that over and over again.
Yes.
Okay, so the parallels is not just one person, it's more than one person. Mm-hmm. And Mantu is considered to be, in many aspects, in Egyptian mythology, a griffin.
He's a griffin, okay.
And that would mean he has more than one shape. So
right.
It's more than just one thing. So
right.
That's probably why they did that, for that reason. So, in our future talks, what I'll be doing is I'll be sending you pictures so you can be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. Because you see, I can see why they would split him more, than just one person. Because it seems that he's more, than one person in personality.
Right.
So, yeah, but the Greeks did this. Now, I mean, of course, we know about Ammon.
Yes.
Well, that's Zeus.
Yes, that would be Zeus. Yes.
Okay, so that's an example.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's another example. Now, you see where I'm going with this? You see how important this is?
Yes, I do see.
Okay, because where would they get the idea to be able to even have any of these? Even if there were half of them, these are clearly Nile Valley deities.
Right.
Okay, so I hope that answers your question, but that's clearly where it's at, because I can go on and on, but these are just a couple of them, just to give you some examples of many.
Yes, and we'll get into those. We'll get into those as well down the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now we're focusing a little bit more on the book. So let me tell you. So someone new. So say this is your first time really picking up a book on any type of mythology. What would you expect, like a novice, to come away with it? Someone who's really kind of new to this.
What I would expect a person to come away with is something different, something refreshing, if I would want to call it that.
Yes.
I had that thought in the back of my mind. I go, wow. See, I've always have thought there was something. Like for an example, are there any African heroes?
Right.
African warriors,
right.
Stuff like that. And then when you see this, you go, oh, it's that aha.
Right.
I knew there was something.
Yes.
That's what I take away from it.
Okay. And the book has got, so when did this book, you said you picked this up about 10 years ago?
Yes.
When this book was actually published?
1996, I think that's the first one that was written.
Okay. And I noticed it's got a foreword written by Bill Duke, who is a very, very well-respected actor and director. He directed Hoodlum. He was in Deep Cover. I know he was in Juice. Predator. Yeah, I mean, Predator, that was one of the baddest scenes. His connection with the eventual governor. A lot of people don't realize Predator produced 2 governors, right?
Yeah.
Jesse the Body Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the warrior bond that they had. So Bill Dukes, who's really one of the finest actors you've had, actually speaks in this book.
Yes.
Why do you think someone of his status would be connected to this?
Well, from what my understanding is from Mr. Walker, he actually sent that to Bill Duke for him to read that.
Yes. Okay.
And he said that was one of the greatest pieces that he has read. He said that's a real golden nugget for him to be able to read that. And he said that's, Bill Duke was really surprised about how it was written.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So he wanted, he was wondering if Gregory Walker had a script for a movie or something, because of that. He said, no, I don't have a script yet.
Yeah.
But he did that book series, and Bill Duke, he said, well, what do you want me to do for you? And so he wrote that for him and put that into his book.
It's an incredible forward too. So when you guys get an opportunity to pick up the book, you're definitely gonna want to check that out. Now, you don't know this, but I'm actually sitting here with my Blade T-shirt on. I'm a big Blade guy, Wesley Snipes. There are some rumors that he wanted to play Memnon. Is there any truth to that they were looking at doing a film about this character?
There is that, because I understand that he had picked up the book series and wanted to do something with it as far as a project with Gregory Walker. I'm not really sure all about the insights to that.
Okay.
But yes, this is the case, because at that time he was working with him based on his works. Yes.
Okay. I mean, so we got how do we get a Memnon movie, man? What will we do as regular people to try to get some fame from Memnon?
Well, Memnon is, like everything else, he needs support.
Right.
He needs, if we want to pick up, I looked at, what was that new movie that just came out? Venom.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at one point in time, Venom was a very small character in the Spider-Man series.
Right. Now he's getting his own movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Venom's got his own flick.
Now you see how much exposure that brings to him?
Right.
Okay. This is exactly how Memnon needs to be.
Yeah.
And I just, in my opinion, once something like that comes out and somebody actually sees that on screen, it'll almost be like the Black Panther was when it first came out.
Right, which is very powerful.
Exactly.
People really embrace that. Absolutely. Yes.
But it would be from a whole different spectrum, because, a lot of people don't know that in college, if you're, going for your degree, especially in history, that's a course that people have to actually take.
Right.
Okay, it's the history of the Trojan War. That's a part of their what they call a prerequisite for them to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
You see how that's important. You
Right.
ain't got to take a course on learning about the Black Panther.
Right. There's no classes on that. Yeah, there's no classes on that one.
Okay. You have to take. You see what I mean?
Right.
You have to take a course. The history of Troy.
Right.
Why would that be so significant?
Right.
That's because that's the foundation of Western literature. That's
right. Exactly. We get some of the best stories that we're introduced to, at least the ones that we're introduced to, through that. This is where we get our stories about the Trojan horse and Helen and Odysseus, who for a long time was one of my favorite stories because you get so much knowledge about kind of the Greek world through Odysseus's travels.
Absolutely.
Now, tell us a little. Now, you've had some connection with the actual author of the book. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, Gregory Walker is a very knowledgeable and wise person. He's been my teacher for 10 years, and he has took me on the adventures of knowledge with him. He's a very he's very diverse. In other words, he's into a lot of projects, but he's a great writer. He wrote 5 books. Mm-hmm. 3, The Shades of Memnon. The other book is Princess Nefertari, Protectress of the Nile.
Okay.
And then Nimrod the Hunter.
Okay.
So yeah, he's a very prolific writer, and he's very insightful. So yes, I learned a lot of things from him over the years.
So that's Gregory Walker, is the guy that you want to look for. If you just go in, like I said, I went to Amazon, quick search, Shades of Memnon, it pops right up. And like I said, I got it in no time at all and was able to get into it. So it's definitely a book that I would encourage people to pick up. So we're coming up on just about an hour, so I want to keep us right about there. What last thoughts do you want to leave? I mean, obviously we're going to get back into this series, so for anybody who enjoyed the series, we're going to come back and talk about the other books and get into details about this book. But what would you want to leave people with right now in our last couple of minutes?
What I want to leave people with, if they have any questions, go to my website, streetdefenseresearch.com, and see what we do. There you'll see contact information, email address, and so forth there. So they can be able to do that. Also, what I want to leave with people in reference to this book series, if people are not familiar with Memnon, and his background, the history of Memnon, or even about the story of Troy, this would be the book series to get.
Okay. This is going to give you some foundational knowledge.
Give you some, yes, very much so. And that's, I personally, when it comes to any of reading all 3 of the books, there's a lot of meat there for me. And I go back to those books over and over again because I always get something because I go, I read this book like 2 times and I didn't even see that part.
Right.
So yeah, I reference those books a lot. I talk about them and I utilize them in my own personal studies. So there's a teaching guide, and stuff like that that's connected to it. Mm-hmm. It's very well used in schools in Chicago.
Okay.
So it's a very well-versed book series to have.
Okay. Well, definitely, like I said, I'm encouraging everyone to step out and pick up the book, definitely to support the author, but also to support Memnon, who's quickly becoming my favorite mythological character of all time now. He's climbing the list pretty steadily. I'm going to make sure we get your links, so when the video is up and it's just live, we'll have links to my man here, Tennis, so you can find him if you have questions for him. I'm telling you guys, he's a great guy to talk to. He will offer you information that I never even heard of. I thought I was really good at this. I thought I was getting pretty good at this stuff. And so it's always great to find someone who can help me on the path. So that's what I appreciate the most. So I'm letting you know that to my brother as I'm talking to you, it's okay for us to share information and to support each other. And I definitely appreciate everything you've been doing to try to help this channel grow. And I know my audience appreciates it. And we're going to definitely have more and more series. So guys, if you want to reach out, please do so. We're here. We've got the comment section. And we're going to make sure you have more access to this great knowledge that I've got, that I'm resourcing for you guys. And he's going to be back with us because we're talking a long-term relationship here, guys. So this is what we're working on.
Excellent.
Yes. All right, my brother. Well, let's wrap it up today. I'll probably give you a call over the weekend, midweek, and we'll talk about what we're going to get into for the next installment.
Excellent. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you again. Thank you, audience. We will talk to you guys all soon. Again, always go to the channel, like, subscribe. There's more links on Memnon and some of the other characters that we've talked about here as we start to dig deeper into both African, North African, and Greek mythology and how they're all tied in together. So thanks again, guys, for stepping in 9 War Chronicles.